Getting to Formula One is never just as simple as, I have all the money in the world and I will pay for a drive. You have to go through all the junior ranks to get there. Nowadays, we have a distinct system of how you get there. We have Formula 4, Formula Regional, Formula 3, and then Formula 2. However, this was not like this initially. Back in the 80s, 90s, and noughties, there were several different ways in which you could progress through the ranks. And one way, which was commonly seen through many countries, was an entry-level single-seater category in which the name would be Formula, and then the name of a car manufacturer. Notable examples include Formula Renault, Formula BMW, among several others. The thing is, though, these championships have either been discontinued due to a lack of entries, or the cars have changed drastically over a long period of time. Take Formula Renault, for example. Back in its early years of the mid-90s, Renault would provide the 2-litre engine, and then a bunch of manufacturers would make the chassis. Then from 2000, the cars were all equal, with Tatuus-made chassis, and the engines were 2-litre units from a Renault Clio. Then in 2010, despite a new updated design, the appearance was... let's just say the changes weren't too drastic. In 2019, the cars changed to the Formula Regional chassis with just a Renault engine, and is what is still being used today. Meanwhile, the old car is still being used, but in regional single-seater categories, which use a variety of older single-seater machinery. That car, though, was extremely popular. It had had 23 championships utilising that car. There is one car, though, which, even though the company is not putting any more factory support behind, is still going quite strongly. I give you the utterly superb Formula Ford. In its history, Formula Ford has had 51 different championships. Of those that are still going, 17. Along with 2 standalone events, like the Formula Ford Festival and Walter Hayes Trophy, where the footage you're currently watching right now is from, which also is my own footage. So I hope you forgive my poor camera work. I'm still trying to get used to the camera, and I'm still trying to get used to how it works. Either way, Formula Ford's history is much earlier than a lot of these other type of series. In the 1960s, entry-level single-seater racing was incredibly expensive, and what didn't help was that the cars were somewhat unreliable, which meant that the already cash-strapped wannabe F1 driver would get more cash-strapped in terms of the maintenance of the vehicles. Then when Jeff Clark, the owner of a racing school, moved his business to Brands Hatch, he met John Webb, who had the snappy title job of being the managing director of developments at Brands Hatch. They had at the time gotten 2 Lotus Formula Junior chassis, but were fitted with the 1.5-litre engine from the Ford Cortina. The power, and much more importantly the reliability, won over the wannabe F1 drivers, meaning they could compete in races without getting anxious that their car would grind to a halt after a few corners. Clark and Webb thought they had a winner on their hands, and they even decided on calling the series Formula Ford in the hope that Ford themselves would give them some support. And they did. From that point on, the cars have barely changed. Whilst Ford did do a few updates to the cars, including adding a front and rear wing, the Formula Ford Championship in some ways does not now exist. However, the older machinery is still used, as I said, in 17 different championships, using just the Formula Ford cars. I think it's easy to see why. I've already gone over reliability advantages, so I won't go over that again, but I think one of the main draws to Formula Ford is the racing they produce. As you can quite plainly see from even my footage, they are fantastic. Watching these races is completely enthralling from the moment the lights go out. As these cars don't have any wings and spoilers, then these cars don't get affected by any dirty air, meaning you can follow the car in front of you easily. They also run so close to one another, but more often than not the drivers give plenty of room to one another. One other advantage that they have is that in many ways it's such a pure racing car. Now what I mean by that is that it's quite basic in the sense that it's got no aerodynamic parts whatsoever. It's just a monocoque with a 1.6-litre engine, a sequential gearbox, thin, almost bicycle-like tyres, with wide suspension arms. There's nothing that stands out to you but it's what, 1, makes it aesthetically uncluttered, 2, why in turn the racing is so good, and where my third point comes along, means they are wonderful to drive. Now that doesn't mean it's a car so easy that you could drive blindfolded, rather the opposite. More, it's a car where you can learn steering aggressiveness, throttle application, how to manage understeer and oversteer, and so on. When I recorded this footage of the Voltage Trophy a couple of years ago, it was a damp start to the day. Well, I say that, but I've been to the Voltage Trophy a number of times, and I can't remember the last time I went to that event and it wasn't raining, because it takes place usually in November. Either way, it was a damp start to the day, and I hope my footage does do this justice, but the cars are on the edge constantly in these conditions, and the back end steps out so easily and every so often a bit too much. That's why this is so popular among fans and drivers. In fact, from personal experience, I can say that it's made one of my friends more interested in motor racing outside of F1. This was the first meeting I had invited him to, and I will be honest, I did have a few doubts if he would really enjoy it. I needn't have been concerned in the slightest. The event has, as I said, made him want to go to more racing events in the future, because he thought the racing was amazing. And I'm sure he'd prefer going to racing meetings over watching his beloved football club, Peterborough United. I will definitely be checking my comment section to see what he has to say about that, but even so, the point I'm trying to make is that Formula Ford has helped engage new fans with motorsport purely on the basis that they produce great racing. And this is a category of motorsport that has been around since the 60s, and is still going remarkably strong to this day, with cars that, at the very least, are 15 years old. However, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that I have helped introduce you to this fantastic car that has started the careers of many of racing's biggest names. Any photo credits will be shown below, so you can have a look at any other work that these people have done. But until the next video, enjoy the rest of your day.